If you're faithful and you're doing what he asks you to do, he always supplies and he multiplies.
The reality is all of us have opportunities that God is putting in front of us to do something.
When those opportunities come, you have to be prepared for them. We got to pray every day. We got to do all the small things that a lot of times nobody wants to do.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Summit Park Church podcast, where we are helping people find and follow Jesus. And I'm so excited to be joined today by my good friend, Deron Cherry. So good to have you, man.
It's good to be here, Scott.
Yes. So fun to have you. And we're going to be talking a little bit about what we talked about on Sunday, the principle of overflow. Letting our lives be a conduit of God's blessing and letting God work through us. And when we were thinking about this podcast, I thought about you because you live this. You live this idea of overflow. And the more I've gotten to know you, the more I've seen that to be true of you. And so it's going to be fun. I think the people are going to be really encouraged. Everybody who's watching is going to be really encouraged to hear how the Lord is using you and making a difference in your life. But I mean, before we get to that stuff, we got to talk a little bit about football. I mean, people want to know. They get Deron Cherry's in the house, Chiefs legend, Pro Bowler, and your story has been so cool because it's always been easy, right? Your story's always been easy, and that's
No, it's not been easy. It's been amazing, to say the least. I mean, I started playing football when I was 9 years old and went all the way through grade school and high school, was a quarterback in high school, actually got to play with my brothers in high school.
Oh, that's cool.
Three of us played at the same time. I was a sophomore. My brother was a junior. My oldest brother was a senior. He was a center. My brother was a wide receiver. I was a quarterback.
Oh, my gosh.
My brother was the snapper. I was the punter. My other brother was the kickoff guy. So
you guys were the team.
We did it all. We did it all, and then wind up going to Rutgers University and playing there on a scholarship, and then had an opportunity to sign with the Chiefs. My defensive coordinator at the time, and when I was at Rutgers, Ted Cottrell, wind up taking the job with the Chiefs as a linebacker coach, and he called me during the draft and said, "Hey, has anybody called you?" I said, "Well, yeah, there's been some teams that have reached out, and they said if we don't draft you on the second day, we'd like to sign you as a free agent." He goes, "Don't sign with anybody. Don't sign until you talk to me." And so after the second day of the draft, Kansas City called and said, "Hey, they were looking for a punter," and they wind up signing me as a free agent punter, believe it or not.
Unbelievable.
And then I go to training camp or mini camp, and they had our coach was Frank Gantz, special teams coach, first year.
Wow.
He sees me punt, and then he wants to change my whole punting style.
Wow.
So I leave spring training, leave that camp, come home, and I thought I was going to be coming back 2 weeks with everybody else. And when I got my letter, it was like 3 days. So, Scott, I'm sitting there at home. I get this letter. It's like report to camp 3 days prior to camp starting. I'm thinking I'm going to be at least coming in 2 weeks, get acclimated. And I go, man, that's not a good sign, And at that point in time, I sat there and go, what do you do? Because do you go and do you make a call? You pick up the phone and you call, say, "Hey, bring me back in and let me do this." At the time, I played safety in college. I was a quarterback in high school, I played quarterback in college, so I could do all these things. Yeah. And I'll never forget this. I was sitting in my mother's bedroom, and I was sitting there reading this letter, and it was like God was telling me, he says, pick up the phone and make a call.
Wow.
And so I picked up the phone. I called out to Kansas City. I asked to speak to the head coach. I said, "Coach, I know my punting wasn't what it should be because Coach wanted me to change my whole style. Never had a punt blocked in high school. Never had a punt blocked in college. Averaged over 40 yards a kick in college. And then you got somebody that's changing your whole style. So you're just like, wow, this is I know it's not going to be good.
And this is the head coach that you're talking?
And I'm talking to the head coach.
Oh, wow.
And I'm asking him, I said, hey, can I come back in? I said, you guys drafted 3 safeties. I know I can play safety. I know I can play cornerback. I know I can play quarterback, and I can punt. That's 4 positions. And at the time, it was only a 45-man roster. So the more you could do, the better off you were. So I was basically selling myself to the coach.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, let me think about it. I'll get back to you. And Scott literally, he gets back to me about 45 minutes later, says, okay, we'll bring you back in. And at that point, I said, had I not made that phone call, had I not had that, listened to that voice inside of me, and said, make that call, I wouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
And you know, that's God moving in a situation where, you know, you're sitting there, and sometimes I know people feel like, you know, what is their purpose in life, and how much are you going to step out of your boundaries and do something when you realize, I mean, here I am, I'm like 21 years old, and this is a life-changing decision.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And so you're sitting there thinking, I mean, you're nervous. I mean, I wonder how many people were in that situation. There's a lot of people, a lot of kids are in that situation where it's a lot of pressure. You got to make a decision. You don't know if you're making the right decision, or the rejection of it all.
Yeah.
If I called and he said, oh, no, we're not going to bring you back in, you know, and then you're sitting there thinking, okay, what do I do?
Right. And
thank God he said, okay, we'll bring you back in. We'll let you work at the safety position. You can still punt.
Yeah.
And it's from that point, it was just like really, really crazy.
So then you come back, because this, like, it's not done yet. No. Like, it's not even, you know, it's just beginning, really.
Just beginning.
Yeah. So you come back, you fly into Kansas City.
I come back. We're at training camp. I actually make it all the way to the last preseason game. And this is when, like, every week they're making cuts. So players are getting released. And the 2 guys that got drafted that were safeties, they wind up getting released. So now it's just Lloyd Burrs, who was the 3rd-round draft pick, and myself as the safeties. And there were only 7 of us left. And normally in a 45-man roster, you kept 7 defensive backs. And so I made it to the last cut down. We were playing our last preseason game in Miami. And in the locker room, dressed, ready to go out. And Frank Gans, the special team coach, comes up to me and says, hey, you're going to be returning punts for us. Scott, I'd never returned a punt in my life. Never returned a punt in my life. And I go, you know, I know what's happening here. You know, they're trying to put me out there, let me make a mistake and cut myself, right?
Wow.
So they wanted to do that. So the first punt that came up, I go back there and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, okay, I went to school at Rutgers, good school, great education. What would a Rutgers guy do? So I put my hand up and waved it, and Fair caught it, put the ball down, ran off the field, came back out the second time. The punt was kind of short. It bounced up in my arms, and I returned it for 5 yards. I go to the sideline. Frank Gans looks at me and goes, okay, you're done for the day.
Wow.
So, you know, I know for a simple fact that God was with me.
Wow.
To be able to, you know, make those decisions on the fly and not make a mistake where they could easily say, well, he's not good enough, we're going to cut him. And so after the game, the next day we come in that week, that's the opening week, we're going to play the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. My family's hours away. They can come see me play. I'm all dressed, ready to go out to practice because there's 7 defensive backs. That's what they keep. And all dressed, ready to go out to practice. All of a sudden, the guy comes and says, hey, we need you to go see Les Miller. He was our pro personnel director at the time. I'm thinking he's going to congratulate me on making the team. And he goes in, he goes, Deron, I'm sorry, we got to let you go. We got 4 tight ends on the roster. Nobody keeps 4 tight ends on the roster. Wow. But they had drafted 2, 1 in the first round, 1 in the 3rd round. And neither one of them were ready to play. And so they had the previous tight end who was the starter from the previous year, and then another tight end who was the special teams captain, and they weren't going to cut him. And so they kept 4 tight ends and only 6 defensive backs. And they told me I had to go home. So I wind up going home, went up to East Orange to my college roommate's place and spent the weekend with my college roommate. Sunday night, after the games were over, Kansas City upset Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. I get a phone call from my mom and says, Kansas City called. They need you to get on a flight, come back to Kansas City because one of the guys got hurt in the game, a defensive back, and they need you. They got a ticket waiting for you. So I get all my stuff, drive home, get up the next day, go jump on a flight, come to Kansas City, and get to the airport. Guy picks me up, takes me to the stadium. 6:00, I walk into the general manager's office, and he looks at me and goes, well, the injury wasn't as serious as we thought. We're not going to be able to sign you.
You've just got to be freaking. You got to be like, is this real life right
It's
now?
real life, Scott.
This is crazy.
It's crazy. So I'm going, okay, so what do I do? They go, well, we'll let you stay here for a week. Fortunately enough for me, Gary Green, who was an all-pro cornerback for the Chiefs, he had a 2-bedroom apartment. He let me stay, and I drove him to practice. He said, hey, you can have my car. You can go find a gym and go work out and stuff like that. And then I did that for a week.
You're just hanging out.
I'm just hanging out.
You're just like, just in case.
Just in case, hanging out. That next week, the Chiefs call me back, and they go, hey, well, if nobody gets hurt in this next game, we got to send you home. Because at that time, they weren't allowed to hide players or, support them or do whatever because it was a league violation. And so I just sat there for a week. They had the game. A couple guys got hurt, and they wind up signing me.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
To play safety.
To play safety.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's back and forth. Yes, no, yes, no. And then finally, it's like you make the team.
I make the team. I'm a rookie. It was like the 3rd game. We were playing in Seattle. So I got to, travel. It's like amazing to me because now you're in the NFL.
Yeah,
You're a player. And I'll never forget this. It was a lesson that, kind of opened up my eyes. We get off the plane in Seattle. We jump on buses because we all have the charter buses. You get off the plane right on the tarmac. And then these buses take you to the hotel. And so we're going, get to the hotel. I'm getting off the bus, and I'm looking down. I see this guy underneath the bus because you put all your luggage underneath the bus. And this guy is sitting down there. He's on his hands and knees, and he's grabbing bags out, and he's helping. And I'm going like, man, look at this guy. He's down there because usually everybody gets their own bag. And then the guy turns around, and he gets out, and I look up, and it's Lamar Hunt, the owner of the team. He's on his hands and knees grabbing bags out, assisting people with their bags. I go, this guy's a billionaire.
Wow.
And here he is on his hands and knees like a humble servant.
Wow.
Serving everybody else. And he didn't have to do that. And that was one of the first lessons.
Wow.
It said, it doesn't matter how much money you have, who you are, it's how you treat people and the character that you're showing.
Yeah.
That makes a difference. And that was a lesson that it's kind of etched in my mind.
Yeah.
To see somebody like that.
Yeah.
Showing an example.
Isn't that cool how God will use somebody's example like that and how we respond to stuff like that? It's like, oh man, I saw someone living out their faith in a real way and it inspired me.
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yes. So, I played my first game in Seattle, and the next week I'm really excited because we're going back to the East Coast in New England. And we're playing the Patriots in old Foxborough Stadium. And my family got an opportunity to see the game. And so that was the first game I really played in. And then that next weekend, we came home to Kansas City. And then that was the first game that I actually, against the Raiders, no less, I actually got to play as the nickelback, the fifth defensive back, and play. And, it was so cool.
Yeah. And it almost didn't happen multiple times.
Yeah.
And someone happens to get hurt, you get a spot, and you had a legit like Pro Bowl, 6-time Pro Bowl,
Yeah.
10 years in the league, 11 years in the league.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
Like to think that you almost didn't make the team,
Right.
and then now your name is in the Ring of Honor for the Chiefs. Like that's just, it's like really mind blowing when you think about it.
And still those first 2 years, it was really difficult because I was considered one of the last 5 of the 45-man guys on the roster, which meant that you could go anytime.
Mm-hmm.
You could be cut, and you had to be able to do a job. And I think what helped me the most was the ability to be able to study and learn and translate all that information that you were learning, and be, as the head coach always says, you need to be accountable for what you're doing.
Wow.
Right? In life, how many times do we are asked that question?
Yeah.
Are we accountable for what we're doing, even in our walk with God, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, are we doing the right things? Are we making the right steps? Are we taking the right steps? Are we going to be accountable every day to Him, to serve Him the way we want to?
Yeah.
And for me, it was like, okay, if you're accountable and you show the coach that you can do the job they're expecting you to do, because every day, and this includes practice too, because they're filming every practice.
Yeah.
So we always used to say the eye in the sky doesn't lie, because it's watching you every step of the way. And you look at it and you say to yourself, man, I got to be at my best every day.
Yeah.
When you're in that environment, you know, you're thinking about that.
Yeah.
You know, every day I got to be at my best, because they're watching me, they're evaluating me, they're trying to see what I could do. And being last 5 of the 45, you're always trying to prove yourself.
Yeah.
There's just no two ways around it. Then we had a coaching change. The whole staff got fired. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, wow, you know, this is going to be interesting, because, you know, whoever the new coach is that comes in, you know, he's going to, you know, pick and choose his players. And fortunately enough for me, something happened. Gary Barbaro, the USFL was the first season for the USFL, which was the new football league. And Gary Barbaro wound up leaving the Chiefs and signing with the New Jersey Generals. Lamar Hunt didn't care for his agent too much and didn't want to negotiate with him. But this is how God works. You know, my defensive coach was Walt Corey. And Walt Corey played for the Chiefs, came back and became a coach for the Chiefs, and he was my secondary coach. And when the general manager saying, hey, we got to go find a safety, Walt stood up and said, no, we don't. We have one.
Wow.
He's right here.
Wow.
And just give you the opportunity. Like, he believed in me.
Wow.
And so they wind up giving me that opportunity. And because of the fact that we had a new coaching staff, it wasn't like Gary Barbaro was still back there. So all the guys, we were all learning a new system at the same time. So it wasn't like, okay, hey, man, you're making all these mistakes or you're calling the wrong coverage, because everybody was starting fresh.
Yeah.
And that was just God's timing.
Yeah.
Right?
Come on, man.
That was His timing. So now I didn't have to worry about the pressure of living up to somebody who was there calling that defense every single, you know, time, making the right calls. And then I'm being judged by what I'm not doing based on what he was doing.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it was all new. And then it wind up that it was the greatest thing in the world that happened, because now I starting fresh, and then, you know, halfway through the season, I'm leading the league in interceptions.
Come on.
And, you know, I'm making tackles, leading the team in tackles.
Wow.
And none of the guys that were around me, and they were all pro players. Gary Barbaro, I mean, Gary was gone, but Gary Green was all pro corner. Eric Harris was another all pro corner we had. And those guys were trusting me.
Wow.
Here I am, my 3rd year in the league, and now they're trusting me, and I'm making these plays, so they're feeling comfortable. And then at the end of the year, the greatest gift that I ever got was I wound up being named to my first Pro Bowl as a starter.
Wow.
And I'm sitting in the room, the meeting room, when the coach comes in. He goes, hey, we're announcing the Pro Bowl, and we've got 3 guys on our team that have made it on the defensive side. And they called Gary Green's name. They called Art Still's name. And then they saved me for last, and I'm sitting there going, like, I'm in my chair, and I'm literally shaking stuff.
Man.
And when he called out my name, I like couldn't believe it. They go, yeah, and he's not only did he make it, he's the starter for the AFC.
Jeez, man.
In my third year.
And that's like, was that like solidifying in a lot of ways for like that you are?
Oh yeah,
you're the deal.
Yeah, because now I'm getting a trip to Hawaii in the sun. And the first person when I got out of the locker room, we used to have these payphones in the locker room, right? Where you can dial out, and I get on the payphone and I called my mom, and I said, "Mom, I got some news for you. I'm coming to get you, and we're going to go on a trip to Hawaii."
Wow.
And most amazing thing, she was totally shocked. Couldn't believe it. And now I'm sitting there, we're going to a Pro Bowl game, and there's all these greats of all the great players that are there, and you're walking in a locker room, and you're seeing all these great players, and, you're asking for autographs, and they're asking you for an autograph, and I'm going like, why do you want my autograph? But it was the most amazing experience. And from there, it just led to, how can you continue to be at that level?
Yeah, for sure.
Because, man, I knew all the work that it took to get to that point. And you're saying to yourself, okay, how do I maintain this? How do we maintain our faith when things aren't right, or even when things are good?
Yeah.
How do we maintain, our faith in God and continue to walk the way he wants us to walk?
Yeah.
And that's what I thought about. It's like, okay, so now he's given me a mission, right? You achieve this level of success, but then what comes after that?
Yeah.
How are you able to stay on that level and challenge yourself to be at that level? So you're continuing, you got to put in extra work.
Yeah.
You got to even work harder than that. And for me, it was a matter, I didn't want to let my teammates down. I wanted them to always be able to trust me.
Yeah.
That they knew that when I went out there, that I knew what I was doing, and I could get them all in the same situation because I was making all the calls, right? So you have that huge responsibility. And so I wanted to be able to continue to do that and continue to be at that level. And it's not easy because you're going to fail.
Yeah.
There's sometimes you're going to fail, and but you just keep pushing forward.
Yeah. One of the things I've noticed about you, both in church and in small group, is that you are a student.
Mm-hmm.
You are a student. Did that translate into your play as well?
Yeah. Scott, literally, it's the only way I made the team because I was a student. And like I said, when they say the eye in the sky doesn't lie, in the NFL, consistency is what allows you to have a long career.
Wow.
So being consistent every single day, because that coach and those coaches need to know that they can trust you.
Yeah.
And I don't throw that word around lightly.
Yeah.
Because it's so important in life and everything we do. It's important in my marriage. It's important with my family, with my kids, to build that level of trust that they know that you are going to do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
And for me as a player, that trust was important because then they could depend on you. Your family always wants to know, can they depend on you? Your friends want to know,
that's it, man.
Can they depend on you?
Yeah.
In a lot of situations, but that's what I got from that is that, hey, they want to know that they can depend on me every single time I walk out on that field.
Yeah.
And when they're able to do that, then they have confidence.
Yeah.
And then that they're going to do it. Because when I first came into the league, they told me I wasn't big enough. They told me I wasn't strong enough, and they told me I wasn't fast enough.
Yeah, that's all you need to be a good safety. Right?
So all these negatives, right, Scott? All these negatives they told me. So what do you do if you're a person and you're faced with that adversity, right? You're faced with somebody telling you, you can't do this.
Yeah.
You're not big enough. You're not strong enough. If you listen to them and your mindset is like, wow, man, we've got to, I've got to change that some way.
Mm-hmm.
So what did I do? I hired a coach to train me to run faster.
Wow.
Got in the gym, made myself bigger, right? Got bigger, got stronger,
Mm-hmm.
right? So all those negatives that they said, I turned them into a positive. So when I came back to camp and they're looking at me and I'm running 540, right? I've got 195-pound frame and, I've done all the strength, bench pressing 400 pounds. And they're going like, oh, well, now we can't say he's not fast enough.
Yeah.
We can't say he's not strong enough.
Mm-hmm.
There's none of those negatives. You take them away from
Yeah.
them. Now the equation is all you're asking for, just give me an opportunity. Let me prove myself.
Yeah.
And that's all I was asking for was just that opportunity. But in life, when those opportunities come,
Yeah.
you have to be prepared for them.
Yeah.
How do you prepare for them? Like when we're trying to be the Christian that we want to be, we got to read that Bible, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got to pray every day.
Yeah.
We got to do all the small things that a lot of times nobody wants to do.
Yeah.
When I was training and trying to be the player I wanted to be, there were a lot of times I had to do it on my own. There was nobody there.
Yep.
There was somebody there.
Yeah, right.
Because God was there.
Right.
Encouraging me, keep moving. Even when I couldn't get anybody to go with me, he's telling me, keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Keep moving forward.
I think that is such a cool thing. It has a spirit of like not taking it for granted, not feeling like not being entitled, but being like, man, I've got an opportunity. I've got my chance here. I've got to make the most of it. God help me. There's almost like that edge that develops in people, and obviously was in you, like that may have served you better than someone who had come in with all these expectations, because we say that all the time too. People come in first round, top 10 pick, and they flame out like in a year or less sometimes. It's crazy because it's almost like they expect to be there versus someone who's like working so hard to be there. I mean, did you see that at all in other players?
I'll tell you, one of the other things that happened in my life when I was 9 years old, I had a coach, PAL football coach, guy by the name of Osa Meekins, and I'll never forget Mr. Meekins. There was a lesson that he taught us. We were playing a game and we were getting beat. We're 9 years old, Scott. And we get on the bus and he walks on the bus and like, we're scared because like, this guy was a browbeater, right? He knew how to challenge you, and like he'd run us sometimes at practice till our tongues were hanging out of our mouths, right? And we get on that bus and he looks at us and we got our heads down because we're getting beat bad. And he comes on the bus and he goes, raise your heads, There are no losers. He goes, I want y'all to look up, and it goes, I'm going to tell you a thing. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. And he said that to us. And then it resonated with me that I never forgot it.
Wow.
So whenever I was faced with adversity in my life, I would always think about what he said to us on that bus that day. When the going gets tough, the tough get going, which means don't ever quit.
Yeah.
Don't ever give up on yourself, no matter what. And I tell kids all the time when I talk to high school kids, college kids, people who want to know your story, I tell them, the one thing that helped me was that quote, because I don't ever give up on myself. Don't ever quit, because when you quit, all of a sudden it's easier to follow that pattern where you just give up. Instead of trying to work hard through the problem, no matter how difficult the situation is, there's always a good outcome that can come if you continue to work at it. And then what happens is you begin to build up this toughness inside of you that says, whenever I'm faced with adversity, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up on myself. And when you do that, you have an opportunity to, I guess, they say iron sharpens iron, right? You have this ability inside of you to overcome whatever situation in life you're faced with, because you're not going to quit. You're not going to give up. You're not going to take the easy way out.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to say, I can do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And God will give you whatever you need
Yeah.
to achieve whatever it is that, you may feel that you're inferior or you don't have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
And I've always used that and thought of that because, it helped me when I was going through my adverse situations in life.
Yeah. It's that Philippians, I can do all things.
Yeah.
Through Christ who
actually,
gives
that
me
was
strength.
one of the scriptures that I would write on my wristband before every game.
Wow.
Was Philippians 4:13, right? I can do all things through Christ which strengthens me. So when I got into a situation in the game where it was like, it's fourth down and they got to make a play or you got to make a play, I look down and see that, and all of a sudden I'd have the confidence that I'm not nervous.
Yeah.
I know my power, where my source of power is coming from,
Mm-hmm.
and I can rely on that, and that's going to get me through.
It's amazing how that edge of faith, like that slight edge of faith, is like a massive difference maker in those, situational moments where you're like, I really need to know that God is with me. I really need to know that it's going to be okay. And you stir yourself in faith. The Bible says that David stirred himself in the Lord. So it's like he encouraged himself in the Lord. And that's something that we can actually do through scriptures like that. We're like, all right, Lord, I know you're with me. And you take those things in a situational aspect on a football field, but then they translate to every other aspect of our lives, whether it be a relational issue or a business issue. I mean, I feel like we could do a whole podcast just on like how the Lord's, navigated you through in different business endeavors. I mean, ultimately being able to be an owner of a football team. I mean, very rarefied air, I mean, but that's the one thing I think is really cool to hear your stories, because you've taken the opportunity you had and you made the most of it, and God's blessed it as you've done it.
Yeah.
That's just really neat to see that.
Yeah. And it's, I think about it, truly a blessing, to be able to be a player and then become an owner, and how God orchestrated that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you can't dream this stuff.
You can't. No.
You can't.
No.
You can't. It just it happens, but that God had His hand in all that, because it wouldn't have happened had I not, met a guy by Pat Scherzer who was friends with a guy that lived, his neighbor at the lake, that was in the shoe business and wanted to become an owner in the National Football League, and he was looking for somebody that he could work with. He calls Pat. Pat gives him two names. They were both athletes, Bo Jackson and Deron Cherry, because that's who he knew. And Wayne Weaver, who was the guy, says, no, I don't want Bo Jackson. Let me talk to this guy, Deron Cherry. And he comes in town and he meets with me and says, hey, I want you to be a part of our ownership group in Jacksonville for the Jaguars. And I'm going like, what? They're not going to get a team, because St. Louis had Walter Payton that was trying to get a team. Carolina Panthers were in the mix, and there was a bunch of other teams. And I wind up calling a guy that I knew at the league office that I had met my first Pro Bowl.
Wow.
I did an appearance at a school. Guy asked me, said, hey, can you go talk to some kids at a school? I go, absolutely. Went and talked to these kids. They were problem kids. Talked to them, got them tickets to the game. After the game was over, brung them in the locker room, introduced them to all the guys. And I called this guy up and said, hey, Mr. Weaver came and met with me, wanted to know if he was going to, trying to get a team in Jacksonville. Tell me what you think about this situation. And he goes, ownership likes him. I think he's going to be an owner in the league one day. And at the time, this guy, he was the assistant to the commissioner of the National Football League. The guy I'm talking about is Roger Goodell.
Wow.
Roger and I developed this relationship back when I was playing.
Way.
And we stayed close over that. So when I could pick up the phone and call somebody that I knew, it was him. How does God work?
That's so fun, man.
When you think about that,
Yeah.
that's working. And eventually we go, and I brought Wayne into town, introduced him to Lamar, and Lamar worked on the back side of that deal. And we, go to Chicago when they're going to announce the teams, the first round. We didn't get the team. They sent us back for 30 days. In that 30-day period of time, the fans in Jacksonville sold like 10,000 club-level tickets in 10 days and was guaranteeing each team that came into Jacksonville $1 million payday.
Wow.
And that changed the owners' minds.
Wow.
We go back to this meeting in Chicago, and then they announced the 32nd team would be Jacksonville, and I became the part owner of Jacksonville. And when I was sitting in the room looking at the commissioner make the announcement, and he says Jacksonville, I jump up in the air. Scott, I'm so excited because I'm thinking Walter Payton and those guys are going to get it, because he's
Walter Payton, yeah.
Walter Payton, And it's just amazing when I turned around, the first person who was behind me to congratulate me and give me a hug was Lamar Hunt.
Wow.
It was like he was looking at me like, hey, this is one of my kids.
Yeah.
Graduated from school or something.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Now I become an owner in the league, become the first African-American owner in the league as a former player. So
it's incredible.
You can't tell me that God's hands wasn't all in that mix, right? Because it truly was, because all those doors that opened up, I didn't have anything to do with that. But when I think and I look back, it's how you were treating people.
There it is.
And how you.
There it is.
How they respect you. So we always talk about this. We tell these young kids when I talk about them, they go, well, how do you get to a point? I said, well, you want to develop relationships with people. And the way you do it is, as long as you're doing what you're supposed to do, then you got somebody that's talking about you even when you're not there.
Yeah.
And it makes a big difference.
It's, I go back to what you said earlier. It's that trust. You proved that you were trustworthy.
Yes.
In those little things, showing up every day. And it's interesting how those things snowball. And we never really truly understand the impact of those little decisions, but they do kind of compound, almost like compound interest.
Yeah.
Where, Lamar's watching you and just being faithful with every opportunity you got, every chance you got, you worked it, you went after it, you grinded, you made the most of it, you had a good spirit as you did it. And it's interesting how those things just get rewarded. And what I've loved just watching you do and in the interactions that I've had with you is you never view anything as insignificant. This is a special moment. This is an opportunity. This is you're always leaning in and making the most of something. And so I can see you just see how all of those things just end up snowballing together. And sure, there is a miracle component. Obviously there's it's so unique that you're this is sure God's had his hand on that. And yet he wants to do that kind of stuff for all of us, in terms of opening doors so that we can bring more glory to him and shine his light and reach other people. But it's about seeing where he's moving and giving our attention to it.
And Scott, you say that, and it brings me back to one thing that happened in my life was the reason in some cases I do a lot of the things I do was, God talks about using the lowliest of people in ways that you never realize until you get older.
Yeah.
But for God to use a janitor at my high school to be able to change my life the way he did, and the reason I do some of the things that I do is because that janitor, Mr. Merle Pratt, used to open up that gym for us kids when we were younger to come in there and play and keep us off the streets and keep us safe in a safe environment. And
Wow.
he was the janitor at the school. He would clean that gym, and then he would allow us to come in knowing that he was going to have to clean that gym again.
Wow.
And he's
Wow.
made that sacrifice to give us kids an opportunity, to stay off the streets, to be in a safe environment. And I never forgot that.
Yeah.
And I said, if I ever got into a situation where I could be, a small portion of what Mr. Pratt gave to me, then I would do that. So that's when, all this work that I do with the charity and the things of that, it's because of Mr. Pratt.
Yeah.
And because of the sacrifice that he made for a young kid like me. And I said, like, it's the least that I can do, to make sacrifices when we have something in abundance, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We have time. Some of us have resources we can do, or if we don't have resources, we have the ability to go get resources from other folks who are like-minded, that have the same mission and thought process that we have, that wants to make our community better and wants to help and serve the people in our community. So we find a way to get it done.
And I love that about your foundation, which is just second to none. I mean, being able to be there for that fundraising event was so inspiring because of what you're doing to help other people. And, having a foundation, like, I don't know how this works with players, but having a foundation is one thing. Running the foundation and actually doing something with it is just something entirely different, which is amazing in and of itself and worthy of honor and respect. But for you, it's actually even more than that, because you personally get involved.
Yeah.
This is what has been, I think, so cool for me. And we're, talking about Overflow this past weekend. It's about, again, not being a hoarder of the resources that God has given, the time, talent, and treasure, but being a conduit of that. You're literally doing that not only in your financial blessing, but through your foundation, but like in your time. You would literally. So talk a little bit about that, because I think this is so cool. How different stores will reach out to you because they've got a surplus they're going to be getting rid of, and you get involved with.
Oh yeah, we get involved. I mean, we have a partnership with Target in some of their locations that provide, items that are probably just going to go in the dumpster, Scott, to be quite honest with you. And they call and say, hey, we've got a pallet of this or a pallet of that, or we've got 5 pallets of stuff that we've got to clean out the store. We can't use it. We can't sell it. And it's good. I mean, it's all packaged and everything. And they call us, and I just tell our people, find a place for it. We've got warehouse space at our office, but we'll find a place, because we know that there's such a need in that in our community that we're going to figure out a place. And especially last year, we, with so many agencies being cut off from funding and not having the available resources, and we had all this stuff, we just opened up our place, stored it out there, and we had like 35 non-for-profits come and just pick up stuff.
Wow.
And I said, hey, I just want all clothes, food, baby diapers, car seats, all kinds of stuff. We even got like bicycles that we raffled off at a fundraiser for some families that we had over the Christmas holiday that we did. This was a year ago. But we get this stuff, and we connect with agencies in the community that need it, that are looking for it, whether it's the homeless, or it's young teen that are pregnant and they need supplies, or whatever it is, furniture, baby furniture, whatever to put together. We try to connect. We have a big teachers drive where we've got 6 pallets of teaching supplies at our office right now that we're going to inventory. And then later this year, we're going to have, these teachers come in at the start of next year and be able to just get whatever they need.
That's so cool.
And it's it's easy.
Yeah.
That's the easy thing, to be able to get it into the people that need it the most. And it's been amazing. We had a meeting the other day, and we're talking about, we had somebody, some representatives from some of the charities that we support, and they gave us an update on some of the things that they're doing. And Scott, it's been incredible. Some of the things that are happening with some of the charities that we support, answering the call of first responders, Ryan Duman, who's just an amazing man that has done so much for these families of our first responders, whether they're police officers or paramedics or anybody that's a first responder that gets injured in the line of duty, and they don't even know, police officers have been shot and they're never going to go back to work, and they need that support. Mm-hmm. And he's there on the front line to help. But we're one of his major donors, right? Yeah. For what we're able to help him with. And just to see, how things just evolve. And there was a police officer in Clinton that got shot, couldn't go back to work, winds up becoming a football coach in Windsor. And he brings because we help support, he brings his football players up to our gala event that we have every year, and they volunteer their time. The juniors and seniors, they come out, they're hauling bags of ice, they're putting up tables, setting up tables, just coming in all the way Windsor, Missouri. In the first year, I went down there and went to their football game and talked to the team. And now every year, these groups are coming back to help us support, so cool, because we actually help through Ronnie's charity, this police officer who's now the coach down there. And so it's just
so cool, because it's like, and it goes back even to, like, I think it's really neat to hear both of these things, talking about football and the generosity component together, because you can see it's the same spirit, the same mindset that is making it possible. Like, taking advantage of the opportunity that you have, mm-hmm. and saying, Lord, what can I do with this? Yep. And I'm not going to take it for granted. I'm not just going to sit on it, but I'm going to do something with it. And I think that's just such a lesson for all of us, because there are so many people who, even with what little they have, they just hoard it, or they don't try to put it to work or see how they can bless others with it or make the most of it.
Yeah.
And there's something about that. I think about the loaves and the fish, where the little boy brings the lunch to Jesus, and he's like, I don't know, like, what this can do among so many, but here you go. And there's other lunches there. There are other boys who could have brought that to Jesus, but there was one who saw the potential in what Jesus could do with what he was bringing. I just think that that's so cool, and both your playing career and how you translated that into business, and now you're using all of that now to help other people. Yep. Who are in need. And again, not in just writing a check or, having someone run a foundation. That would be amazing. That's great in and of itself. But personally getting involved. And I think there's something powerful about that, like, that gets unleashed in our spirit, that keeps us, again, that edge, that student mentality, that keeps us hungry. Like, I'm doing this. I'm looking for opportunities myself, yeah, on how I can make a difference. There's like the Holy Spirit uses that and activates that. And I think that's like where that overflowing life really takes off.
Well, it takes off, but then it also can potentially take off with your family. Like my kids, and some of the stuff that they've done over the years. I remember my daughter, she had a birthday, and one of the things she did was ask for donations on Facebook for people to raise a certain amount of money just to be able to give it to a charity. Wow. Not that she was trying to get anything for herself. It was more or less, I want to donate this. I want to raise money for charity. So she raised money for Camp Quality, wow, which is one of our, organizations we support, to be able to give money to those kids, to send them to camp for a week over the summer. These kids that have cancer, young kids that would never get that opportunity elsewhere, but now they get to go to camp for a week to be a kid.
Yeah.
And it's stuff like that you're showing an example, yep, of them to do it. Like, it hit me when my oldest son, was squinting at the TV one time, and I'm going like, can you not see? What's going on? He goes, I can't see. But we had this program, Score One for Health, where we were going around to the elementary schools and doing testing because we saw that, nurses were going out of schools and the healthcare system was not reaching those needs that they needed at the school. So we decided to start a program to go in and do health screenings in the elementary schools. And so my son, he's squinting and I'm looking at him going like, I had the wherewithal to go get him to the eye doctor. So we take him to a screening and come to find out he can't see, like he needed glasses. And here I'm thinking about those kids that are in that school, that how many of those kids need glasses that can't see. So now we have a program that we're able to do that. And this past year, our partners with the university that run our Score One for Health program, they had a foundation that came in. They took 700 kids, Scott, gave them eye exams. During that week, every single one of those kids got a brand new pair of eyeglasses to fit them.
Wow.
And they came back and said, this is the biggest charitable deal that we do every year, and we want to make it bigger. So next year, they're going to do 1,000 kids.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
That's so cool.
Something that started so small.
That's it.
In one school with 250 kids. Now we're screening over 10,000 kids a year.
Wow.
And we're doing not only here in Kansas City, but in Joplin as well.
Wow.
So it's
I just love that, man. It's just, and, everybody, the reality is all of us have opportunities that God is putting in front of us to do something.
Yes.
It's like you see, like, oh, my son's squinting. What's that? Okay, no. Oh, there are other people who are doing that. How can I help that? It's about looking for that stuff. We talk about this all the time at Summit Park, but if we can't see what God is doing, we stumble all over ourselves. But when we attend to what he reveals, we're most blessed. I think God is revealing those types of things all the time. He's revealing opportunities for us to see where we can make a difference, where we can be an impact, where we can help other people in a tangible, significant way if we'll just open our eyes and we'll let go.
Listening to God as he speaks to our heart. Mm-hmm. Like if we're walking and we see somebody, help them.
Yep.
It doesn't take much. If, I'm in a grocery store or something like that and, you can see certain things. Take care of it. Take care of a need. And just keep it, like you said, open your eyes, listen to your heart, because God's going to reveal, what he wants to reveal to you. It's just a matter of you listening.
That's it.
And that's when you talk about a lot of times, how do we know the voice of God? We won't know the voice of God unless we're praying with him. Unless we're reading his word every day. Unless we're doing all the things that now all of a sudden we know what that voice sounds like when it's speaking to us.
Yeah.
To say, hey, go do that.
Yeah.
Go take that chance.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. And it's fun because God always supplies. So it's like he is the provider, but he's just looking for that conduit. So it's even as like you go to help somebody, and I've seen this so many times in my own life. It's like we think it's actually going to make us. We think it's going to make us less, and certainly there is like a momentary deficit when you give somebody something, whatever it is, time, your talent or your treasure. Whenever you give us, like there's a momentary deficit, but God will always supply. He always fills us back up.
Not only does he supply, he multiplies.
He multiplies. It's it.
Yes.
It's it.
And I've seen that happen in my life. I mean, I've gotten to situations where you go, God, where's it going to come from? But if you're faithful and you're doing what he asks you to do, he always supplies and he multiplies. He makes it bigger. And you're going like, wow, God, thank you. I could have never even imagined at this point the fullness and the richness that he's provided in my life and in my family's life, that we're able to do some of the things that we're able to do. And you just go, thank you, Jesus.
Yeah.
Giving us that opportunity.
Yeah. And yeah, and it just, that ongoing blessing. It's just cool, man. Thank you. I really, this has been such an inspiration to me, watching what God's done in your life, what he's doing, and hopefully to everybody who's joining us. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Man, appreciate you.